I guess we're ready to start. All right. Good morning
Recording
again.
in progress.
Thank you. How are you all doing this morning? I hope you all had a nice, calm cup of coffee, unlike what I did just now. But yes, it was a good cup of coffee. So we are continuing with our series, and you'll all remember it. And I've got it up here. And so what is the series? I was a club teacher. I still am a club teacher. You have to answer questions, right? So what is the club series? Old habits die hard. I didn't do that. I wasn't practicing that. That came on its own. Yeah, elephant in the room, and you can trust Ruel to pick up such a offbeat topic. And when he said it, I was like, wow, okay, I don't know what's happening, but he gives a lot of guidance, which was very appreciated. So last week, what did we do? What was the who spoke last week? Everybody's turning around and looking at her. Come on, everybody turn around and look at Becky. Give her a big hand. Because that message lasted me all week, so I want to thank Becky for that. So what did Becky talk about? She talked about hard-heartedness and also gave us some time to reflect on some of the places that we were struggling that we probably didn't even realize. This week, the elephant in the room is unanswered prayers. So I am going to share about my struggles with unanswered prayers, right? And the reason that it's the elephant in the room is nobody talks about their unanswered prayers. How many of you go around saying, hey, guess what? I prayed and it was not answered. We rarely do that. When our prayers are answered, we're all like, oh, praise God, and it's wonderful. We rarely share our unanswered prayers, right? Where it has a lot of stigma also sometimes, saying that, oh, you didn't pray hard enough maybe, or maybe your faith is not strong enough. Ouch, yeah, those ouch statements, and it leaves you feeling that it's not something that you want to talk to a lot of people about, right? You don't come up here and say, I'm going to testify today about my unanswered prayer. It's not really what happens. But as much as it's an unspoken struggle, as much as we don't share our unanswered prayers, we know it's there, right? We cannot ignore it. We are trying to ignore it. We can't ignore it, just like the elephant in the room. As I said, when Ruel came and told me the topic, and he gave me a list of what an elephant in the room would mean, one of his very first topics was actually unanswered prayer or disappointment with God. And this was back in January, and I was going through my season of what I would call unanswered prayers. And it hit me straight away, and I said, I'm going to pick this topic. I want to talk about it. I feel like I can relate from my life, or I can share stories from my life. Again, disclaimer, I'm a club teacher, so there are a lot of stories attached to my messages. Less theology, more stories. That's how I go. So, Psalm 10, verse 1 says, why, O Lord, do you stand far off? Why do you hide yourself in times of trouble? That's kind of what we feel when our prayers are really not answered, right? So I want you to take out your phone, okay? And I want you to go to mentimeter.com and type in the code. There are two questions. I request that you just stay with the first question. And the question is, what do people pray for? Can I get by a show of hands people pray? Okay, all right. So I didn't want to put that on a Mentimeter. But what do you pray for? What do most people pray for? What do you pray for? Not most people, sorry. And I hope. The code is 6234 6469. Guidance, deliverance, blessings, wisdom, healing, forgiveness. Nobody prays for their job? I'm just like waiting for those interesting ones to come up. Wisdom, security, health. 6234 6439. Please don't go to the next question. There is a next question. 6-9, yeah. Wife. I love that. You pray for your wife or you pray that you will find a wife? Which one is it? Job, yeah. Thank you for being my future. Answers. Loved ones. Friends to find Jesus. Yes. Praying for your friends. Breakthrough. I think this will keep coming in now. But thank you. But thank you for sharing what you pray for. Children. Yes. School. Yes. I prayed a lot for my school, especially before my exams. I prayed a lot. I prayed it would close also on some days, so I didn't have to go. His way. All right. Thank you. Wow, that's nice. Yes. Thank you for being real over here. I'm going to ask a second question, okay? And this may seem a little bit off when I ask it. I want you to play along with me, okay? So you ask a question. You ask God. You pray to God, okay? What percentage of your time, of the time, do you think God answers your prayer? That's the next question. So you go down and you will see a next question. And you must be wondering, why are there stats in the middle of the message this morning? But play along with me. You know, what percentage of the time does God answer your prayers? Somebody's being, yes. Code 6234 6469. I love the honesty in 25%. We had 66 answers last time. Numbers are dwindled over here. I guess people are calculating. I know. That's why I said, why a stats question in the middle of the thing? But just take the time to reflect on that as I go ahead. So thank you for sharing what you prayed for, and thank you for sharing, the amount of time you feel God answers your prayers. Can you just take a second to write down maybe 1 or 2 prayer that you feel God didn't answer in the past 6 months? Didn't. This is unanswered prayers. So we are all in the negative this today, right? So what did God not answer in the last 1 or 2 months? Or past 6 months maybe. 1 or 2 months is a little too close. So as I was prepping for this message, I was reading a number of blogs and listening to devotions. And one of them said, God always answers prayers. And there goes my title right out of the window, right? Unanswered prayers. He said, there is no such thing as unanswered prayers. Do you know what the Christianese for that is? God answers prayers as yes, no, and wait. It's just that we don't like the way God answers our prayers, right? So it got me going back to the title I had chosen, and I decided to stay with it because it was a learning for me, right? I knew it always, deep back down. God is answering my prayers. It's just that I don't like the way. So it's not unanswered prayers, really. It's differently answered prayers. It's prayers that, I want God to do one way, and He decides that's really not the right way for you. And 1 John 5:14-15 says, and this is the confidence that we have toward Him, that if we ask anything according to His will, He hears us. God always hears your prayers. He always answers your prayers. If you get nothing out of today, please just remember, there's no such thing as unanswered prayers. And if we know that He hears us in whatever we ask, we know that we have the requests that we have asked of Him. What happens to us as humans, it's very common, it's not an unknown emotion. When when we don't get what we want, what happens to us as humans is we feel the emotion called disappointment. I don't know if you've ever done the emotion sheet. They give it to us for parenting. They give it to us for, some of the other programs that we did in terms of finding out our emotion. And disappointment is one of the emotions that is very common to humans, right? So when our prayers are not answered, the emotion that comes to us is disappointment. The definition of disappointment is sadness or displeasure caused by the non-fulfillment of one's hopes or expectations. Sounds like a child who didn't get their ice cream before dinner, right? Maybe the ice cream was there after dinner, but they wanted the ice cream before dinner. So it's basically a non-fulfillment of our hopes, and we don't even want to wait for it. The word disappointment actually means to not meet an appointment, right? To not have an event happen. And it happens when things don't go my way, right? There's a sad, frustrated feeling of loss that follows. It's a very common emotion. It's nothing that is, I don't want to call it holy, unholy, not good, good. I don't want to categorize it. It is an emotion that we as humans feel. And in this sense of a prayer differently answered, we feel it towards God. We feel disappointment at God, right? Why is this happening to me, right? In this season of disappointment, and this was what I was going through in December and January, with a lot of stuff happening around me, I realized that I go through this cycle of phases, right? And I also realized I have this regular pattern that I keep going into, and I want to share with you what my pattern is. So I'm not saying this is necessarily your pattern. You may have a few more steps that you add in there, and you may get stuck in places that I don't get stuck in, right? So I'll tell you where I get stuck in also as we go along over here. But I want to share with you first that during these seasons of disappointment, we have these phases. And the first phase that I go through is I keep praying. Okay, the answer is there. The answer is out there in the open. But you're hoping for a miracle, right? You've not lost hope. So you continue to pray, okay? And after some time you realize, it's not really working my way again. So the disappointment continues. So then you keep praying longer prayers, right? You want to show that you have more faith, and you're there on your knees, and then you're fasting and praying. You're hoping to change God's mind. By the way, praying more prayers, having more faith, and fasting and praying are not bad things. Very good things, but the motive behind it should also be correct, right? But during this season of disappointment, you kind of lose perspective, right? So your motives also become a little warped kind of over there. And I go into these long on the floor with my head bowed down, just begging and pleading, please, 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 please. Also, there is a whole lot of pleases in the prayer. It still doesn't come through. Then you go into denial. You can't believe it's happening, Why is it happening? You're searching for reasons, right? There's a lot of why questioning. Bert always says there's no answer to why. Why is just a question that is over there, right? There's really no answer to it. But you want to find out and figure out something, right? You don't want to accept what has happened. You don't want to accept God's answer to your prayers either. That kind of spirals down, and then you start getting angry with God, right? These are all things I've been through, by the way. Let me confess, this is not me preaching to somebody. This is what I have been through, right? So during my anger phase, I'm like, why God? Why now, right? And if you stay there long enough, it can get very dangerous, right? This is why if we shared these prayers with those around us, it would become easier, because in community, you can kind of pull out of some of these valleys a lot quicker, right? And then there is the super spiral, right? You start going down and down and down, and the party starts. The pity party starts. This is where I get stuck a lot, right? I can spend a lot of time over here, and the pity party starts because we start comparing ourselves to those around us. That person got what they wanted. That person got what I wanted, right? There's a little bit of envy and jealousy that starts happening over there. Very, very dangerous place to be in. And if you don't pull yourself out of it very quickly, you could kind of get stuck there for a very long time. Once the pity party is over, then you start questioning God. Till now you're saying, why God? Now you say, how could you? Do you even know? How could you? You want to help God out by telling him what's the right way to answer your prayers, because you don't believe in his divinity, right? And all of these are happening because your perspective is completely lost in that unanswered prayer. And then you struggle with your faith. I have a testimony to share about being here and specifically asking God this question. Don't you want your name to be glorified? This isn't about me anymore, right? So in 2009, Suresh's mom came to the US. She came to help me with the delivery of Isaac. It was the first grandchild in the house, so we were all very excited. She had come at about my 5th or 6th month, and we were excitedly waiting for Isaac's arrival, right? And sometime in August, she had a very bad stomachache, and we rushed her to the hospital in the US, and she was diagnosed with stage 4 colorectal cancer. Now I understand what stage 4 colorectal cancer means. At that point of time, I was like, God can heal, God will heal. We had seen so many cancer survivors around us that we were like, oh, we are in the US, the best place to get treated, right? A lot of denial going through those moments. My mother-in-law, who was a genetics professor, had somehow made up her mind at that time only, right? And she had said, I just want to see my grandchild. I hope God lets me see my grandchild. So she went through the surgery, which was quite a major surgery, a very long surgery. She came out of it. And we got a whole year with her after that. So Isaac was about 6 or 7 months. We went to India. She spent time with him. Even at that point of time, we weren't sure what was happening. And then her cancer recurred. And this time it was bad. None of the chemo treatments were working. We were still, Suresh still says, in the end, we were like just forcing her to take her medications, like take it, this one and that one, and going from one doctor to the other because somebody else had the answer, right? At one point of time, she says, guys, I'm done. I've seen, I've enjoyed, I've had a good life, and I'll come back to that. And I'm ready to go meet my Lord. And she had made her decision, and of course, we are not ready to leave her, right? And both my sister-in-law and Suresh were like, prayers on the knees, fasting, calling together the church to pray for her. We had just not accepted God's answer to our prayers. So she passed away in July 2010. And for me, the harsh part was, my mother-in-law was somebody, I'd never seen somebody with such strong faith, okay? She came from a Hindu priest background. She was the only one in her family who in college had known the Lord, accepted him, and come over. And then she got married much later. So it wasn't like one of those, oh, I'm getting married, so let me come over kind of faiths. No, it was not one of those. She had a very tough life, right? Both my father-in-law and my mother-in-law struggled because they were college professors. Jobs were not easy to find at that time. Suresh still talks about stories of where she slept at 12, woke up at 5. It was that regular thing. But she still always says, I had a good life. Her testimonies were always powerful. And for me, the struggle was, God, if she gets healed, her entire family may come to you, right? They may all get to know about you. For me, that was my judgment. So I said, God is going to heal her because he wants his name to be glorified. This is not about my comfort or that I want my mother-in-law around or something like that. This is about his name, right? So I'm starting to bargain with God saying, hey, this is about you. This isn't about me. But when she passed away, I think for the longest time, I couldn't bring myself to pray. It was very hard to pray. I struggled with my faith. I struggled with what's the point of this. There were a lot of questions, definitely for sure, a lot of questions. I don't know if you remember Suresh's picture when he talked about the just God, where he placed his mother way above him. And that is how we all saw her, right? I, in my fiery self, did not deserve that good a mother-in-law. I can openly say it right now. She was one of those really cool mother-in-laws, who'd buy me shorts and let me wear it. One of those mother-in-laws, right? So for me, it is like, why is this happening like this, right? So she was one of those people who deserved that, abundant life, and she just started enjoying it because all her responsibilities were over, and then this came around. If you don't have a community, and I'm thankful that I had a community when I was struggling with my faith. If you don't have a community, and by community I mean a church that holds you together, then you go to the possibility of rejecting God. Because you doubt that God can even do anything, right? And I've seen people go there. To put some humor in that, because I don't want you all to be sitting over there looking at me like that, this is Isaac and Ziva's favorite comic series. And I found this when I was looking at for Unanswered Prayer. And this is Calvin and Hobbes, okay? And Calvin is praying for snow. And the first thing he says is, if I was in charge, there'd be no grass between October and May. He wants snow during that time. And then he's like screaming, right? Snow, come on, snow, snow, snow. And then he starts going to bargaining phase, right? No, actually, before that he says, okay, fine, don't snow, I don't care. You do what you want, I'll do what I want. Then he realizes that's not going to work. So he says, okay, he starts bargaining. Okay, 12 inches, no 8 inches, no 6 inches, give me something kind of things. And then he's like, I'm waiting. And then the frustrated. And then the last stage. Do you want me to become an atheist? It's like almost like a threatening God, right? Do you even care that, I follow you? Sorry, I had to finish that slide with this slide. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to go ahead after this. So why doesn't God answer our prayers our way? As I said, he always answers our prayers. We just don't like the way he answers our prayers. All the parents in this room know that you have said no multiple times, okay? Some of those no's don't even make sense, right? No, because I said no, right? But he's that loving parent who provides what we need and not just what we want. I've asked Ziva for permission to share this. So a couple of weeks ago, we are finished church and we are walking downstairs getting ready to go out for lunch, and we walk past Pantaloons, and we've just finished the Mufasa movie, and we see the Mufasa t-shirt with the Mufasa shorts that looks so cute. And Ziva's like, oh my God, I gotta have it. This is so cute. And it was really a very cute t-shirt, Any other time I would have said, okay, fine. But I become all loving parent, I decide that this is the time that I should show her what life is about. And I say, no, Ziva, you went last week to Chennai, and Attai bought you, which is her aunt, bought her a lot of nice clothes because, to want to pepper up. And we went to Bombay before that, and you got we spend X amount of rupees. So I tell her the X amount of rupees on clothes. So you really don't need it. So I said, if in a couple of months it's there, we'll buy it. She's like, it'll go in a couple of months. I said, then we won't buy it, right? We'll look it up on Amazon, you won't get it. And I don't think she was very happy with my answer. But sometimes that's how we are with God, right? We're not really happy with his answer. But he knows exactly what we need, and he's not about answering to what we want, our desires. This is a very common thing that Suresh says. God is more interested in your character than your comfort. And sometimes you want to punch him when he says that, because it's going to be you're at your deepest low, and he's like, this is God building your character up. We had these series of things happen to us in December and January. And again, I want to confess, as a sports parent, some of this may seem very small to you all, but for us, we've invested a lot of time, right? So in December, Ziva was at the peak of what she would have been for her nationals. She was ready, and she tore her ligament. That you're going to hear that testimony a lot from us, by the way. I'm just warning you, because it taught us a lot, right? And we were ready. We had booked our tickets. We were getting ready to go for that, come back, and then go for Isaac's nationals. We had the whole thing planned out, and literally a week before, she tore her ligament. I put a picture of her leg, and I sent it on the prayer group saying, please pray. And then I put a picture a few hours ago, and I said, it's gone, it's become so much less. And Sheila gives me a reality check saying, Rohini, it looks the same as it did in the previous picture, right? So I'm here hoping that it is gone and it's going to go away, and miraculously God's going to bring those ligaments together. We didn't know it was a ligament tear, but we were just hoping it was a sprain and her leg would heal back, right? And then flash forward, Isaac is ready for national. So it was a big disappointment. We didn't go to Gujarat, we didn't go to Bombay at the right time. When we went to Bombay for a vacation, we had to carry Ziva around a lot. She didn't get to enjoy it. She kept saying, I want to put my leg down in the water. So we were at the beach. She was like, I want to put my leg down in the water. So disappointing time, right? Flash forward, Jan mid, Isaac goes for nationals. And again, he's at his peak. His coach is like, silver ya bronze, to aayega madam, no problem. She's writing us up kind of things. And we are like, all right, let's go. In his trials, his hand slips a bit, and they are like, I mean, you want to call cutthroat, that is it. They like slash points over there. He misses his bronze at the trials. He misses his bronze because of another slip at another place during his finals. Then he goes to Suzuki Nationals, and he gets a bronze over there, which doesn't really, I mean, you don't get a medal for that, but, we're like, yeah, at least he got it through. But it was a really disappointing season, and we're like, what's happening, right? And Isaac is sitting there quite down and watching the seniors go up and perform theirs. And one of the stars of, aerobics gymnastics comes there, Meet Kusambia, and he does his thing, and his leg touches outside the line. It's a big fault, by the way. It's just a line. It's a big fault. Or does he slip, Isaac? I don't know, remember. He slips. Something like that happens. A very small thing. And his coach turns to him and says, see, Isaac, even legends fall. And I think suddenly Isaac was like, oh, perspective, It's here today, it's gone tomorrow, right? There's a very difficult verse that I even shudder saying. It says, the Lord gives and the Lord takes away. Blessed be the name of the Lord, right? It's something that we don't really realize. These disappointments that come through in our life are God's way of building our character. They strengthen us, they shape us, they make us who they are. For us as parents, we would have loved to protect them against all of these things, right? But God's like, no, they need to learn this at a young age. And so Suresh kept saying tough lessons at a young age. And we had to move on. We did have the why phase, and then we were like, what else? Okay, let's do something else now. Let's move away from the why phase. And then we also have to remember that he sees the bigger picture. Right? He knows our past, he knows our future, he knows what is truly good for us. And here I want to connect with Ruel's omniscient God. I hope all of you remember this train. We love this train. We are all the whole family now is into morph mode in PowerPoint. So I'm trying to do something, and I'm like, it's not moving, Ziva. And Ziva's like, just morph. I'm like, it's not working when I'm morphing. But not with this picture, something else. But while we have this really small past view, God has past, present, and future, right? Where we think we want to tell God, this is what's best for me. God says, I don't think this is what's best for you because I know what's coming ahead. I can see even before it has happened. And sometimes we find it very hard to trust God, right? So one more story, and hopefully my last one. I was in for a job interview at Johnson & Johnson. It was a pharma company, one of the biggest for me. I was very excited. I was just waiting to get out of my current job. I hope nobody in my current place sees this video, because then it'll be a big problem. But it was getting very tough for me over there, right? So I was really looking out to get out of a tough situation, and this job came along with the hiring manager that they call, reaching out to me and saying, let's meet. And I meet her in Bangalore, and she's like, you're the perfect person for this. Oh, I wouldn't go anywhere else. You're so talented. My head's, of course, increasing 4 size bigger. And, I'm telling Suresh, I've got this, they're just offering me the job kind of things. And then I have the interview, and I actually did quite badly at one of the interviews, but I still thought I had it, right? And then sometime in the middle of Jan, she messages me saying, hey, Rohini, we decided to go with somebody else. And I was like, what happened? So I got on a call with her, and she's like, oh, you don't have people management skills. And I'm like, I manage 3 people at home. They're very hard to manage, but I manage them pretty well, right? So Steffi keeps saying, you not having people management skills, tell them to come speak to me kind of thing. So, but it didn't work out, right? And again, the little spiral, like why, Luckily, I didn't last there. Thanks to a good coach whose name I won't mention, I didn't last there very long, right? I was able to pull out of it, and I moved on from why to what else, right? And then my current workplace picked up. It's still difficult, but I'm seeing it in a new perspective. Last week, okay, I don't know for what reason, I decided to look up this hiring manager to see if she had hired somebody else. Mainly, I was looking at who else is going to take my job, kind of things. This lady has quit Johnson & Johnson and moved on to something else, which means if I had taken that job, I would have been in deep soup, right? I would not have the hiring manager I expected. I don't even know if whether the job would have existed, and then I'd be looking for another job really quickly, right? And that's when this picture made, when Ruel shared this, I was like, yeah, there's something that's going to happen in the future, and I don't know what it is, that God is really protecting me against, and God was protecting me against it, right? And I'm thankful for a God who knows my past, my present, and my future, and gives me the answers according to that. God's wisdom goes beyond our desires, right? This little Bible verse you see in a lot of people's houses where it says, "My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness." We don't read that first part, right? We say, but he said to me, right? And the story behind it is Paul is asking God to remove thorns. He said, I asked God 3 times to remove thorns. I don't know what these thorns were. In my world, I would imagine there are people who are like really annoying him. In his world, probably it was a physical ailment that he was going through. And he's saying that God said, no, you got to deal with those thorns because it's only in that weakness will my power be shown. It's a very hard thing to accept, right? But we have to trust that God's wisdom is beyond our desires. And the last thing is a small video that I'll share with you on how, this is not the last thing, this is the last thing for why God doesn't answer our prayers our way. It's a mystery that will be revealed to us in eternity. So, Rohan, will I get sound over here? Do you have the video? I didn't test this out before. Try out sound? So this is from the series while Rohan's pulling it up. Rohan, able to? Not able to? Yeah. This is from the series Chosen. This is not a Bible story, okay? This is what you call artistic license. Thank you. That is the word I'm looking for. Artistic license, but very well explained. I really like the way it explained it because sometimes we do have these questions, right? You able to click on it? Good. Sorry, I'm putting Rohan under immense pressure by saying go, go, go without warning him before that. But Jesus is talking to what he calls little James, right? Little James has this physical ailment, and they show him having this physical ailment from the beginning when he's following Jesus. And now at this point, Jesus is sending them out in twos to heal people, right? And thank you. I'll let you watch the rest.
Master.
Little James.
May I have a moment?
Of course.
Forgive me, I'm not always confident to speak.
Slow to speak. It's a very good quality.
I wanted to ask you a question.
Please?
So you're sending us out with the ability to heal the sick and lame. Yes, that is what you said.
Yes.
So you're telling me that I have the ability to heal. Forgive me, I just find that difficult to imagine with my condition, which you haven't healed.
Do you want to be healed?
Yes, of course, if that's possible.
I think you've seen enough to know it's possible.
Why haven't you?
Because I trust you.
What?
Little James. Precious little James. I need you to listen to me very carefully. Because what I'm going to say defines your whole life to this point and will define the rest of your life. Do you understand? In the Father's will, I could heal you right now. And you'd have a good story to tell, yes?
Yes, that you do miracles.
And that's a good story. But there are already dozens who can tell that story. And there will be hundreds more, even thousands. But think of the story that you have, especially in this journey to come, if I don't heal you. To know how to proclaim that you still praise God in spite of this. To know how to focus on all that matters, so much more than the body. To show people that you can be patient with your suffering here on earth because you know you'll spend eternity with no suffering. Not everyone can understand that. How many people do you think the Father and I trust this with? Not many.
But the others, there's so much more.
So much more what?
I don't know. Stronger? Better at this?
James, I love you. But I don't want to hear that ever again.
I know how easy it is to say the Song of David, that I fearfully and wonderfully made. But it doesn't make this any easier. And in this group, it doesn't make me feel like any less of a burden.
A burden? First of all, it is far easier to deal with your slow walking than it is to deal with Simon's temper.
Trust me.
Are you fast? Do you look impressive when you walk? Maybe not. But these are things the Father doesn't care about. You are going to do more for me than most people ever dream. So many people need healing in order to believe in me. Or they need healing because their hearts are so sick. That doesn't apply to you. And many are healed or not healed because the Father in heaven has a plan for them which may be a mystery. And we remember what Job said. The Lord gives and the Lord takes away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. When you pass from this earth and you meet your Father in heaven, where Isaiah promises you will leap like a deer, your reward will be great. So hold on a little longer. And when you discover yourself finding true strength because of your weakness, and when you do great things in my name, in spite of this, the impact will last for generations. Do you understand?
Yes. Thank you, Master.
A man like you healing others. Oh, what a sight. I can't wait to hear your stories when you return. Shalom, my son.
Shalom.
And James, remember, you will be healed. It's only a matter of time. Shalom, my son.
Shalom.
As I said, disclaimer, this is not like a Bible story, it's artistic license. But it really helped me get perspective on how God answers some prayers and doesn't, and what he expects from us during those unanswered prayers. Just to continue to follow him and believe that in eternity, we'll have our answers, right? There are a lot of Bible stories about answered prayers, like Hannah praying for Samuel or Ruth finding Boaz, so many prayers that are answered. But there are also a lot of stories in the Bible about unanswered prayers. Job, there was no prayers really, he just started being inflicted and inflicted again and again. And Job says, why? And God says, look at me. That's all the answer that Job gets. David, again, he didn't ask to be king, right? He gets anointed, and then he's just running for his life. Joseph has this wonderful vision, right? God gives him this beautiful vision, and then God says, wait, it's not yet time for that vision to come true. And David prays for his son, and toughest one, God says no. But I want to focus on this prayer in the Garden of Gethsemane. In Matthew 26, verse 36 to 46, he says, going a little further, he fell with his face to the ground and prayed, my Father, if it is possible, may this cup be taken from me, yet not as I will, but as you will. Very hard prayer for me to even say it like this. He went away a second time, and then he goes away a third time, and he prays, and every time the prayer is, take this cup of suffering away from me. Yet not my will, but your will be done. Thank God that God didn't answer that prayer the way Jesus wanted it. Because Sunday came, and because of the prayer answered differently, we can live. There's this poem called the Confederate Soldiers' Prayer. I think it's a soldier's prayer. I'm just going to read it to you, and it says, I ask God for strength that I might achieve. I was made weak that I might learn humbly to obey. I ask God for health that I might do greater things. I was given infirmity that I might do better things. I asked for riches that I might be happy. I was given poverty that I might be wise. I asked for power that I might have the praise of men. I was given weakness that I might feel the need of God. I asked for all things that I might enjoy life. I was given life that I may enjoy all things. I got nothing that I asked for, but everything I hoped for. Almost despite myself, my unspoken prayers were answered. I am, among all people, most richly blessed. I want you to find a partner. Just turn to somebody right and left, right? And pray for each other, right? A differently answered prayer is not easy to endure, right? The no's are hard, the waits are even harder. So pray for strength for each other, right? And also pray that, pray that you give God the right to say no into your life, because he does have the power of our life to say no or to say wait. So pray with each other for strength, for courage during unanswered, differently answered prayer. If you have a specific season you're going through, ask for prayer. And remember, God makes no mistakes. I think you can leave with that. So find a partner, pray a short prayer.